I keep calling them with the intention of reducing my package.
Welcome to the Herd Mentality Podcast, an eclectic weekly mix of atheistic and humanistic conversations with complete strangers. I've never met them and they've never met me, but we're throwing caution to the wind, taking a risk with a dodgy internet connection, and God willing, get an interesting conversation for you to listen to. I'm your host, Adam Reeks, and it's time to meet our guests.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Herd Mentality Podcast, and with me today I have a bloke who is so secular, he named himself after his description, a secular bloke. Hello.
Hi, are you recording this?
Well, I can redo it again. You're not happy with that?
No, I thought you were phoning me up about the chook shit homeopathy remedy business plan that we discussed.
Is that... I think it's going to be a big money spinner.
Well, I noticed the chicks are hatched and ready to go to work for us, so...
No shortage of poo. Yeah, so I've got 2 hatched and 4 to go.
Beautiful.
Very exciting. And Mr. Oz Atheist, you're on the line. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, as always. Finally, from another country, getting another chance to get a word in. Godless Spell Checker, hello.
Good evening, morning, evening.
We had recently on the show God Checker.
Yeah, that was cool.
And did you take him up on his offer to go and be the work experience kid in the office?
I'm just penning the CV as we speak.
Right, well let us know how that goes. I hear the pay's terrible, but the work's hard.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you all very much for coming on. There's nothing really planned. We just wanted to talk a little bit of nonsense. So I thought, given that we're all listening to pretty much the same stuff, which podcasts are you guys into at the moment? Secular Bloke.
Mate, it's all cognitive dissonance for me at the moment. You actually put me onto them, I think. And I'm up to episode 68, listening to them in order. And I think episode 68 took place about October 9th, 2012 or something, so about a year behind. But yeah, no, fantastic podcast. So if people are looking for podcasts, I can't recommend it highly enough. They really work well together.
They're hilarious and quite crass, which is good. Yeah, 63, you're about halfway through.
No, 68, and I think they've just released 119, so trying my best to catch up. I try and do 1 or 2 a day. So we'll see how we go.
The stories they talk about don't really date. When you listen to it, every week it's pretty much priest touches up kitty, somebody gets stoned in a Middle Eastern country.
Plus it's also Republicans speaking in public and making total tits of themselves, and there's never a shortage of a Republican in the States willing to do that. It happens probably daily.
Pat Robertson's always a gold mine of material.
He features... The show's actually, the last few episodes have been quite Pat Robertson heavy, which is fine. If you're looking for someone to make a tit of himself, he's sort of your go-to guy, I guess.
He's a big fan of demons, and I think making stuff up on the spot.
Definitely, yeah. And homosexuality is causal to most natural disasters, according to old Paddy.
Yeah.
He's a very intelligent bloke, worth listening to.
And Godless Spellchecker, do you listen into those?
I have to confess, I'm not a huge podcast listener, apart from yourself, obviously.
Yeah, evidently.
I do occasionally check in on the Empire Film podcast, which I understand is completely unrelated to this conversation.
Right.
But it's entertaining. No, but I'm more of a YouTube guy for my sort of secular religion, atheism lowdown.
Yeah, who are you hitting up on that?
I've tapped into a lot of Douglas Murray stuff. He's quite on point when it comes to Islam.
Right, I'm unfamiliar with him.
No, it's worth a check. He's a bit of a neocon, but he's not wrong about religion.
Right, and the Atheist Experience, do you check those? Matt Dillahunty?
I've seen a few before, but not recently, no.
He's a no-nonsense kind of guy.
I've heard he is the guy, yeah.
When he quizzes somebody on slavery in the Bible, for example, see, I tolerate the mental gymnastics a little bit. I'm too polite, whereas he gets quite upset, and I think quite rightly so, but he's so concise in how he turns it around on the caller.
Yeah, I think I saw him take apart Pascal's wager once. I think I might be right in thinking he doesn't even entertain that anymore. But yeah.
So what sort of feedback did you get from the Ricky episode, Godless Spellchecker?
Good. Everyone seemed to enjoy it. A lot of people incredibly... I'm not sure if it was surprise or disappointment that I'm Northern and English.
I must admit, I was surprised, but not in a negative sort of sense. It was just, and I know it's weird. I think we probably all do it when you see a tweeter that you read their tweets with some sort of frequency. For some reason, if I knew, okay, he's from the UK, and I had your voice in my head already mapped out, and so when I heard... You're from Manchester, aren't you? Sounds like? Yeah. So when I heard the main accent, it just sort of threw me a bit. I thought, hang on, that's not the voice I'm hearing in my head, which is bizarre.
I think everyone's Harold Bishop to me when I'm reading an Australian tweet.
Do you want to read your latest tweet to us in an Australian accent?
Me?
Yeah, go for it.
Right, let's see how many people I can offend. What did I do?
Probably something hilarious.
I'm going to do a whiny Danny Minogue, I think.
Bring it.
Chimps can just turn into humans. Humans are primates. We just share a common ancestry with apes. The evidence is solid.
That has to go in.
We'll have you hosting the X Factor in no time. Got a spell checker. You do a little bit of charity fundraising through your blog.
There's two things I've noticed with tweeting a lot. It's one of the first times I've ever heard this objection that atheists aren't charitable. Just that wasn't on my radar before until I started tweeting, and I'd get a lot of that. And then coupled with how active and passionate people are who follow me, I thought if we set up a charitable fund to see what happens, we might be able to do something. And on Red Nose Day, cleared nearly 11 grand in the space of a couple of weeks, which is pretty phenomenal.
Holy dooly.
Yeah, so I just thought we'd keep trying. All we have to agree on is that to be good, you just have to agree that it's good for its own sake. So that's inclusive of all beliefs or lack of beliefs. We're currently trying to put some pennies away for water aid, and I think that's just past 6 grand now.
Wow. So tell us a bit about water aid. What's the goal of that?
They're a UK company, but they're international in terms of their efforts, and it's to go in and visit areas and communities that haven't got access to clean sanitation and drinking water, and basically provide the water, but provide the means for them to sustain it as well, in terms of, so they can get schools up and running with toilets and washing facilities and drinking water, so that they, impoverished communities can sort of make a decent start, I think.
Cool. I think everybody sort of focuses on where they feel they can affect the most change, because that's the rational thing to do. Mine is a little different. Mine's focusing on education with women, because in the long term, I think educating women is the way to lift people out of poverty.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the water aid thing, you check on their side, they have a big sort of mission statement, and one of the main things is, education's paramount in terms of women in these areas, and water's sort of, you can't do anything without water, so they sort of tie into each other a little bit.
I've not managed to be quite as successful as that. I give 10% of everything I earn from the show to Kiva, which is a microloan arrangement where you can loan the money to a group or an individual in a third world country or around the world, and then they repay the loan, and they've got a very high repayment rate. It's like 90-some%. So almost all of these loans are repaid. They're quite reliable because these people understand that if you don't repay your loan, you're not going to get another one.
Right, yeah.
When the loans are repaid, I just reinvest it into other loans.
That's great.
Secular bloke, you do some charity fundraising as well, don't you?
I've got one running at the moment, yeah. The funds go to research for a disease called ataxia telangiectasia. And the reason I chose that was, my friend's sister has 2 kids that suffer with it, and she's the one that actually started this charity in Australia. But obviously the research will benefit universally anyone with ataxia telangiectasia. So that was one of the reasons, was because it affected someone near me. But also, unlike things like, the big diseases like cancer and leukemia and all those, which are horrible and need funding, they get a load of funding because they're so well known, whereas this one, just no one's ever heard of it. So I wanted to firstly raise awareness by just tweeting about it and getting people to retweet it, and also, just raise some funds. I think we're at about $1,380 at the moment, which is great. I'm hoping to get to $2,000 by December, which would be good.
And where can people find out details for that?
I won't give the URL because it's a ridiculously long address, but if you go to my Twitter account @SecularBloke and just go to the bio page, the URL's there. And I tweet about it with probably enough frequency to piss people off, a couple of tweets a day. So, but I thought, I opened this Twitter account. The sole reason to open this Twitter account was basically take the piss out of religion, and self-amusement were the 2 goals, and they've both been achieved well and truly. And so then I thought, now I've got a few more followers, it might be a good chance to try and raise some funds for this charity, so that's what we're doing. And also, I don't know how long it'll take you to get this podcast out, but if anyone's in Brisbane listening, there's a cocktail evening on this Saturday night at the Eaton's Hill Hotel, and it's a good night to raise funds for the charity, and they have silent auctions and live auctions, and it's just a good night normally. And www.brashat.org.au. Tickets are $50, which includes your food, and then you just buy your drinks. Like I said, there's a few charity auctions on the night, and it's always a great night.
Couple of spell checker. What's really annoyed you about religion this week?
Oh, that's a list. We just had, the people been trampled on the pilgrimage.
Oh, didn't read about that. Tell me.
Yeah, basically, there was the sort of, the religious right going to worship at where was it now? In India, and there's been 50 people trampled to death.
What, deliberately?
No, just because of I'm guessing, because of sort of the euphoria of getting to the event, and it was sort of a stampede in a bridge, sort of a bottlenecked on a bridge. I think last time I read it was something like 110 pilgrims killed.
Yeah, it happens all the time. I lived in the Middle East for about 10 years, and every year during Hajj, where they all go to Mecca to mumble at a wall and throw rocks at the devil. I remember reading some years there are up to over 200 people trampled to death just for the same reason.
To be fair, they don't have the monopoly on doing stupid things. So the running of the bulls in Spain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let me see if I can outrun this 3-ton piece of meat.
Yeah, it's the only situations where you are rooting for the animal, I think.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I love it. I love seeing people... It's like bullfighting as well. I love it when the bloke gets gored.
Yeah. Do you think we have a fascination with running away from animals as part of some sort of evolutionary thing? We're predisposed to running away from Tyrannosaurus rexes and so forth, given we all lived on the planet at the same time.
I think it's the whole surviving a dangerous situation that gives you the adrenaline rush thing, so I think that's probably what the running of the bulls is.
Well,
either that or, young guys in pissing competitions is probably another option.
I don't know about you, but I derive great pleasure from watching skateboarding accidents on YouTube.
I hate the ones where the arms break and they're at right angles, though. I can't watch that shit.
Yeah, I can't see broken bones.
No.
Nah,
but
not a fan.
A good groin injury warms the cockles of my heart.
Oh, no.
The secular bloke.
Yes.
What's annoying you in the religious realm?
The crazies have been a bit quiet for a few days. Normally I do a this week religion science comparison, but haven't had any meaty substance for a couple of days. Apart from that trampling, I just haven't got around to tweeting that one. What's annoying me, I've seen a growing list of Catholics who are against the HPV vaccine.
That is annoying.
And when you discuss with them and you sort of say, well, hang on, the studies so far show that A, it's efficacious, B, there's been more than 1 million shots given, way more. I can't remember the exact figure. You need to bring in Dave Hawkes on this one. And out of all the shots, there's been no serious side effects noticed. It's being given for free to school kids, and it will save lives. It can help prevent cancer. So I can't see any other logical reason why you would be against it. But some Catholics are, and presumably because it promotes promiscuity. They'll go out and fuck now. Well, guess what? They're already out fucking, so let's give them the HPV back. It's just so stupid.
Can I just say I just whacked efficacious into Google?
And? Did you spell it correctly?
No, but Google did. Did you mean?
Donovan, can we hear you?
I hope so.
Welcome back, Donovan. You've got Canadian internet today.
Yeah, it's bloody terrible.
So, Donovan, what are your thoughts on an NBN?
Well, I'd like one. I saw a pretty cool video on the internet where a guy goes to various places around the world trying to sell them our internet, or the Liberal Party's NBN plan, I should say. And he went to this guy in Singapore and says, I can sell you 25 meg downloads in 6 years' time. And the dude goes, I get 200 now.
It's laughable. My wife's Korean, so we go there at least once a year. Korea and Hong Kong, I think, are the top two in the world as far as internet connectivity go. I can't remember the exact download speed they get there, but it is absolutely ridiculous. We're one of the few countries that actually have bandwidth restrictions in Australia. I mean, I've lived and worked all over the world for about 15 years, and, I've lived in many different nations, and our internet is absolutely appalling comparatively. But in Korea, you get this unlimited bandwidth. It's 1 million times faster than what we get in Australia. And when you sign up, they're out that day, connecting it in your house, give you a free modem and everything, and then you pay about the grand total of about $20 a month to keep it. We're just so far behind the 8 ball, it's not funny, and they want to make it worse than what we've got already.
It's ridiculous. I don't understand it. Using a network that was never designed to do what they want to do with it, it's spending lots and lots of money to create something that's already behind world standard. It's not like we're going to create it and then it'll soon be surpassed. Like, what they're planning to give us 6 years from now is at this moment behind world standard. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Australian NBN. Yesterday's technology tomorrow, coming soon to a country near you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I was explaining to Godless Spellchecker before, Donovan, when you were having your issues for the last 3.5 hours, that we were investing all this money to get fibre to the node and then copper wire into the house, and his response was, "Huh? Copper wire?" And that's it. It's a joke.
Because the other thing in terms of infrastructure in Australia that we're talking about building and might happen within my lifetime, but unlikely, is a high-speed rail route between Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. There's a comedian called Sean McAuliffe, and he did a comparison between the two. He said if the government gets in, because this was before the election, he said if the government gets in, what we'll do is have a high-speed train to near Sydney, and then you'll have to change at the node and get onto this Dodgem car and drive into the city from there. Yeah. It's mad.
The fundamental issue I can see is you've got far too much country.
Yeah,
we do. We need to auction it off.
We need to shrink it a bit.
Get yourself a little island, broadband, trains, all good.
That's it.
That's it. See, we can't have both the high-speed train and the high-speed internet. So if you had to choose one, I'd go internet.
Let's talk Australian politics for a moment. Donovan.
Sure.
I'm just going to go to the loo.
I think Australian politics is so far off the world scale that it barely needs mentioning.
This new guy's good, though, yeah?
No.
New guy. Oh, jeez, come on, mate.
As you'd say up there, Godless, he's a fucking twat.
Really spot on.
I think the atheists in the country are thoroughly unimpressed because his views are just so 1947.
But how does somebody like that get elected?
I think we didn't vote him in. We voted the other party out. My opinion is the Australian people just got sick of these people acting like high school kids.
Playing musical prime ministers.
Yeah, that was it. We have now a senator who's a representative of the Motoring Enthusiast Party. He actually won a seat in the Australian Senate. Can
I just add, this will be great for the Aussie stereotype. Apparently there was YouTube videos found of him having fights in his backyard, and when I say fights, not fist fights, it was him and his mates drunk throwing kangaroo shit at each other.
Correct.
So that's one of our senators now.
He's a senator.
I wanted to ask you, who went to see William Lane Craig and Krauss?
I went in Brisbane with Andrew Skagg, Jordan Miller and Religious Critic and a few others, and Donovan went to the Melbourne show.
Cool. I think I watched the other day. I think it was which one was not. I don't think it was Brisbane. I think it was the third and final talk. I think
it'll be Melbourne.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best people I've seen sort of handling William Lane Craig's nonsense pretty efficiently. What do you think?
Yeah, very much so. Because I'd only ever seen William Lane Craig on YouTube, obviously, and he's very good at what he does. He's just a professional debater, really, and he uses the same rhetorical arguments all the time, which are all flawed and failed, but. In the sort of the way the debates have been set up, normally for him, no one's really taken him apart on it, but this was good. Yeah, Lawrence Krauss just totally demolished him, I thought.
He's a semantics wizard, the man.
Yeah.
But the sort of the format where it was like a sit-down conversation rather than a opening statement, rebuttal. I think before William Lane Craig got into full bullshit momentum, Krauss was basically easy just to point out the flaws in his premises straight away without letting him get going.
Yeah, that was it. It was the format did not suit William Lane Craig at all.
Yeah, because normally when he's got the floor for 10 minutes or whatever, he made point after point after point after point. And with the debate format, like you said, mate, you can't jump in and say, hang on, no, that's wrong. Whereas when it's a sit-down conversation, he can say his first line and you can jump in then and say, no, actually, that's wrong and here's why. Whereas when he's got the floor to himself, he does his bamboozling and average Joe in the audience might go, oh, wow, is that so? Whereas when Krauss is sitting there next to him and go, hang on, that's not right, then you get that opportunity for people to actually hear someone say you're wrong and here's why at that moment rather than having to wait. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that format. It was really good.
Yeah.
I was glad someone finally picked him up on his shameful quote mining, because that is like atrocious. It's so difficult to do in the debate format because you don't have the text in front of you half the time. So if he reels off some quote from a sort of a well-respected physicist, you can't really refute it unless you've got access to the text in front of you after. I think Krauss did a really good job. I'm not always a big fan of his style. I don't think he's a natural speaker, but obviously he knows his stuff.
Yeah, no, he did well enough.
I caught up with the head of the Melbourne City Bible Forum and he helped organise the whole thing. He got Krauss and Craig to come out and he introed the night and outroed it as well. And I caught up with him a few days later and we actually recorded a review, our opinions of the night. And that's up on YouTube. So.
Tweet a link my way. I'd like to have a look at that.
For sure. He's a really nice bloke, actually. I quite like him. He's just wrong. And so...
Hey, Donovan, a little earlier we were talking about what's really annoyed you about religion this week. Is there anything in particular you wanted to raise and have a whinge about?
This young fella that I can't even remember whether I went to him or someone else retweeted him or something, and he said that it was one of those, without God, I'm nothing, atheist, if you're not living for God, why are you living at all? And that annoys me. It's this teaching people that they are literally worthless without religion in question. And it bugs me. Like, he's a young fella thinking that without his God, he's worthless, he's useless. And I said, you live for your family and your friends and workmates, colleagues, teammates, that whole thing, books and movies and going out and experiences and blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, why not teach people to be happy and enjoy what's there. It annoys me that religion teaches people to think so little of themselves.
Yeah, blessed teen, who's a favourite account of mine. He put up something similar the other day saying, I'm nothing without God, and I just replied with, well, I'd love to write something hilarious here, but you're everything without God.
Yeah,
I would have been honest and said, yeah, you're useless, but it's got nothing to do with God.
Yeah.
And at the end, I just said, you've got no better reasons to question your religion than the fact that it tells you you're worthless without it.
It's the ultimate abusive relationship, I think, religion.
I was about to say it's almost analogous to an abusive relationship. It's like a man who beats his wife and convinces her that without him she'll be nothing.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a healthy relationship.
So why don't the big Korean companies like Samsung or LG apply this same strategy to selling their products and saying you're absolutely worthless without this new side-by-side refrigerator?
Hey everybody, this is Tanner Campbell from the No Godcast podcast, and I've got some pretty interesting news for you. For those of you who don't know, the Humanists of Florida Association is putting on a conference November 2nd and 3rd of this year in Orlando, Florida, called the Florida Free Thought Conference. Going to be a lot of really excellent people there. Seth Andrews from The Thinking Atheist, James Randi, Bria Crutchfield, Sarah Moorhead, Alex Jones. A lot of really rad speakers, and more than just those people. A lot of people that you're going to know, big names. But it's in Orlando, Florida. And maybe you don't live in Orlando, Florida. And maybe you don't live within a reasonable distance to get there without spending hundreds upon hundreds of dollars on airfare and hotel accommodations. Well, if that's the case, head over to livestream.floridahumanist.org, and for $12, not only are you going to get access to the live stream of this conference, you're also going to get access to one-on-one interviews that will only happen over the live stream and will not be made available after the event is over. It's going to be pretty excellent. So head on over to livestream.floridahumanist.org, and for $12, you can be there too.
I read an article actually the other day, and I don't think I tweeted it out because I couldn't verify it, so keep that in mind. But it was some group, Islam-based, wanting to change rules so you could still have sex with your wife up to 6 hours after she passed away.
Yeah, I don't think that was ever verified, but I heard it somewhere. I don't know if I heard it or read it, but I remember thinking, imagine if that was true.
For the husband who has issues letting things go.
You can't read anything now without thinking, someone from Onion wrote it or trying to be the Onion.
Yeah, I think that was supposedly in Egypt. They passed a law that you're allowed to shave your missus for up to 6 hours after she died.
I couldn't find a. You know what? I remember this now, and I couldn't find another source apart from I think it was the Daily Mail in the UK. Not too sold on that one.
No.
I mean, that's ridiculous. 4 maybe, but not 6.
Yeah, I know.
Oh dear. So we've gone from philanthropy all the way through to necrophilia. Well done.
Something for everyone. Just while we're on the topic of peer reviewing stuff and checking different sources, I had about 4 or 5 people tweet me the link for an article regarding a guy who claims to have found something from Roman times, which claims to say...
Yeah, that's the Atwill article, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm sure he's getting that out there because he coincidentally has a tour to England and would love to sell some tickets. I've had quite a few people tweet me the link and say, what are your thoughts on it? And, well, the first couple of things I thought to myself was, one, I want to investigate who Atwill is and sort of get a feel for him. And apparently he's treated as a bit of a tinfoil hat wearer in the scholarly society, or in the scholarly circles. That's the first thing. And the second thing I thought, well, even if it is true, what difference is it going to make? It'll make no difference whatsoever. They already deny evolution, which is just a proven fact. So if they've got enough cognitive dissonance to deny that, if you could prove that Jesus never existed, it would make no difference whatsoever to Christianity. They already block out any sort of counter-evidence as it is. So, I mean,
just
it's really...
anyone not aware, the guy is claiming that he's found evidence that Jesus was manufactured by the Romans, and he's got documents that show that Jesus is.
I think what he's saying is plausible, but, I mean, who cares? You need to see the evidence, whether it's true or not. And like I said, if there is pretty good evidence to support it, it won't make a difference. It won't make an iota difference to it.
See, I cast an eye over the article and then completely disregarded the content of it because I thought, well, if this was true, then surely I'd be seeing this on the Sydney Morning Herald and the BBC News website and the New York Times. And
not only that, you'd think that his peers, biblical scholars would also be on board saying, yeah, it's true, he sort of seems out on a limb.
Mm.
To me, it completely smacks of sort of conspiracy theory, but the really funny thing about it is it's basically, I mean, to atheists, it's the Holy Grail, evidence that Jesus didn't exist, or it was, more or less a conspiracy by the Romans. But I love the fact that all the atheists are just going, no, we need more evidence. What have you got?
I think when I tweeted it out, I said, it's interesting, but we need to know more and have some more information here. And even that, which would be ideal for us to be able to present, we're just saying, no, hang on a minute, let's find out some more, because that's just how we are.
Can you imagine a theist doing the same thing with something that confirms their beliefs?
Absolutely not.
Can we have some more evidence, please, for Deuteronomy?
Yeah, look at him with the Shroud of Turin, and I had another lunatic. I can only describe them as a lunatic, and Twitter's full of them, as we know.
They come on my show.
This goes back quite a while. I tweeted out something about the irony of Catholics calling Scientologists crazy and then believing in transubstantiation, which is the most batshit crazy idea in the world. And I actually had a Catholic constantly tweeting at me with all this evidence. He said, well, there was this one time in Rome in 1970, fucking whatever the year was, and they investigated the bread and they got a bit of the bread out and it was flesh and blah, blah. And I said, okay, sure. Can you link me to the DNA test results and all this? And how the fuck, sorry to say that, I've been listening to too much cognitive dissonance, but how the fuck can anyone believe such nonsense? I really just don't. I can't get it. You guys all follow Adrian Briggs, don't you? He's a funny bloke. He sends out a tweet every now and then and just says Catholics believe that they're eating the body of Christ. It's just crackers or something like.
If when you fall off the perch, would you like somebody to symbolically devour some sort of component from your body?
Well, Megan Gale can devour some part of us.
It all depends on whether or not it contains sweeteners.
Right.
Yeah.
And only for up to 6 hours.
The rigor mortis might help us out.
Oh dear.
You know, David Suzuki.
Yeah, David Suzuki. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was him. He said that when he goes, he wants to be put into the water near crab and have the crabs feed on him for a while, and then have his friends to have a feast on those crabs. Very big circle of life thing. And I don't know that I'm necessarily up for that, but I like it. It's kind of poetic. It's a very much, return to the universe kind of thing. And I kind of like it.
And we eat today this body of crab, which is body of David Suzuki. Mine's not quite that elaborate. I'm going to be snap frozen and bashed into the ground like a tent peg under a tree. Let's talk other podcasts. Donovan, you've been on Jake's Imaginary Friends show.
Yeah, I've done that a couple of times now. It's pretty good. I like going on there.
It's good fun. I learned so much from going on a show with a good host.
I was trying to catch up with the Bible Reloaded on YouTube. I quite enjoy what they do on there. So I've watched probably 15 or 20 of their videos over the last few weeks.
Well, Donovan and Godless Spellchecker, is there anything you wanted to get in that you couldn't get in on the Ricky show?
A couple of words, I think.
Well, if he listens to this, he might get a giggle out of that.
Just the bit where he said that he followed Godless Spellchecker and then through him found me, which is complete bullshit because he followed me.
Noticed the complete silence from me at that point.
Yeah. I noticed you didn't correct him in a hurry.
Yeah.
See, from that,
it was on 140 characters still. I thought, why change the format?
Oh dear.
All right, so that's the semantics covered.
How long ago did we do that? And I'm still carrying that grudge. So.
I don't have a grudge. Me, a grudge is nothing more than a place to pork your core.
You write every day about that.
Yeah, the last time you three met, you had Ricky. Now you're stuck with me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, we've downgraded. Can you try and be a little bit more funny, Secular Bloke? Maybe talk over everyone a little more?
Comedy's not my gig.
But seriously, how hard was it to get a word in? Like, this wasn't talking, Adam was jumping in, and we're just sitting in the background going, just some moment, someone asked me something.
You know, what's funny is I absolutely love the podcast. Like, I've listened to them all, and I was sat there at one point, and I genuinely forgot I was part of the conversation.
I've done that too. Last time I was on Jake's one, I think, Adam, you were on that as well?
Yeah.
And I was just sitting back listening, and my girlfriend was in the room at the time, and she sort of looked at me and sort of worked out, why aren't you talking? And I go, oh, yeah, I'm actually part of this. Like, speak up.
Yeah.
You sit back, and especially with Ricky, because he was like a juggernaut. He was unstoppable, and he obviously came on wanting, to get some points across, and he just went for it. And I know a few times I went, nah, and, you just couldn't. He'd just go again.
For as long as Ricky was speaking, I just thought this is less of an opportunity for me to make a complete tit of myself.
Well, the one time that you did manage to snipe a comment in, that paid dividends.
Yeah. And the other one I'm liking on your podcast at the moment, Adam,
is me.
I don't like much because it's pretty amateurish, because the host is a bit, But Religious Tea, I always look forward to his monthly wrap-up to hear about the latest religion he's been in for the month.
Yes.
It's a great idea. There's no way I could do what he's doing.
Is he another northerner? Can I claim him?
Yes.
How many sort of diverse accents do you have in Australia? Is he sort of a scale from Danny Minogue, Donovan, like Jason Donovan, Harold Bishop? What's the hierarchy?
It's probably a scale from Adam Reeks would be about as posh as you get, down to Alf from Home and Away. And there's not a lot in between. It tends to be towards, Adam, who's, well, I went to private school and I speak very well. Yeah, what are you doing? Oh, mate, it's bloody hot. I'm going to milk the tub off a cap. You sound like Alf from Home and Away as soon as you hang up, don't you?
I do. And I swear like a trooper.
In all honesty, there's a slight difference in accents as you go south. I think there's definitely a difference in Melburnian accents.
In England, I can go 5 miles and find an accent that's amusing to me. It's bizarre. That's such a small little island. I mean, you think I'm Manc? You should hear. I mean, I work in Salford. That's like Liam Gallagher, essentially.
You mentioned Ricky's podcast before. One of the funniest lines in all of his podcasts. I nearly crashed the car when I heard it the first time. Now, Carl was talking about someone on the estate that owned a monkey and kept the monkey in the house. And Ricky came on and said, "You kept the monkey in the house?" He said, "Oh, Carl, that's fucking cruel." He said, "And in Manchester," he said, "It's fucking cruel keeping a person in the house in Manchester."
Right, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the Herd Mentality podcast. We have at Secular Bloke, at Mr. Oz Atheist, and at G Spellchecker. Guys, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers, mate.
I made a classic theist mistake and just assumed I knew what the time difference was rather than check in. So I actually thought it'd be 6 p.m. It's 10:30 now, so you can probably guess how good my maths is.
So
you're only out by 4.5 hours.
In terms of spell checking, quite good. In terms of adding and dividing, not so brilliant.
The great comfort of adding and dividing.
Yeah.
Of the universe.
Thanks for listening to The Herd Mentality. If you enjoyed the show, please head to herdmentalitypodcast.com and click support. A couple of dollars a month helps make all of the difference, and 10% of the proceeds go to kiva.org. What are you waiting for? Now!